Hello there, my name is Cynthia Rowland, and I am the host of the Ageless Sisters radio show. But once in a while, I get the opportunity to sit with one of our guests and actually have a conversation on camera, and that is who I have today, a former guest, Curtis Cluff, the man behind the beauty brands. He is the CEO of Envy Medical. Welcome.
Well, thank you very much, Cynthia. It's great to be here with you.
Thank you so much for being here.
It's my pleasure.
You know, it's very rarely that I try someone else's products. Yes, I have used my friend Diane Ranger's Color Science products for several years because I met her at Home Shopping Network and we formed a great friendship. But it's very rare that somebody sends me a product line that I really use. And Curtis, I want you to know that when you sent the Lumexal brand to me, I looked at it, and I thought, would I do that? And I began to use it. And it produces such a luminous look on the face. I know there are some secret ingredients in there that nobody knows about but you.
Well, there's some great technologies, and we can tell you about them because they're well protected with patents. But this is the feedback that we get from people when you kind of first get it. There's so many things out there that make claims and talk about what they can do that you kind of are somewhat, skeptical naturally and should be.
Of course, yes.
And more people are getting familiar with what's on those labels and what is it they're really putting on their skin, and that's a great thing. But as people start to use this and see the results, they become, very impressed and committed to the products because they do have some great technology that do something that nothing else can really do.
Nothing else does. Now let's back up a little bit because you have had, I'm just going to say, I grew up loving the cosmetics as a kid and in Oklahoma, and I would go to the drugstore or the department store and just look lovingly at all these different products, not knowing exactly what they were, but just packaging, everything just has something about reeling you in to love them, okay? How did you get involved in the beauty business?
In an untraditional way. I got involved because initially I studied accounting and finance. Not the most exciting things, but stable things. And I got involved in doing accounting, certified public accountant, and then went to work for a client of mine. It was a large Fortune 500 company in technology, so nothing to do with this space. But while there was a investor that we worked with at one of the companies I was at formerly, who had invested in a small privately held company called Obagi Medical Products, and I'm sure you're familiar with the Obagi brand and people. And they knew me from the work I'd done with them in the computer, hardware, software, technology space, and they felt like this company needed some help, and I had kind of a reputation at that point for doing turnarounds and helping companies fix problems and those kinds of things. So I came and looked at what they had with Obagi and ended up going there initially as CFO, Senior Vice President of Operations. But about a year and a half into it, the CEO who I came to work with was a brilliant guy named Austin McNamara, who came from Procter & Gamble, and I learned a great deal from him about marketing and brand development, brand management. He's just a brilliant guy. But he developed a serious illness and was forced to take a leave of absence from the company. And at that point I came in as interim president of the company, got really involved in product development and working with the marketing teams and building that out and eventually taking it public. And that was just a great formative experience for me. I got so involved in not just the brand and brand development, but the technologies and what aspects of skincare are in the cutting edge and what we could do to really further skin health. And so that's where I got my kind of formative experience. It was very electrifying for me because I had always an interest in skincare. I have, as you can see, kind of what I call a pasty white complexion.
I wouldn't have called it that.
Yeah, that's about I can. And that means I have to really take care. I have instances in my family of people getting skin cancer. My father is dealing with that all the time. As he ages, he gets more and more of that, and has to deal with it proactively, and does. But it was ingrained in me early on that you've really got to take care of your skin. And you particularly, Curtis, need to take care of your skin because you have a history of skin cancer.
Yeah.
Fair.
Yeah,
That's
very
good.
fair. Yes.
So those things combine for me to be able to expand on this interest in skincare and learning about it personally, as well as then seeing and having exposure to some of the best technologies out there and some of the cutting edge formulators, and working on new products and brands and technologies.
So these cutting edge formulas must be so exciting, because you have a product line where you see visible results in just hardly any time at all on the skin. I was very impressed.
That's right, and what really differentiates it from even prescription products, and Obagi has prescription hydroquinone. Mm-hmm. Hydroquinone has been kind of the gold standard for addressing hyperpigmentation and fair skin, but as more and more people have begun using it, as more companies have started to use it, even in sort of daily skincare regimens, we've also become a lot more aware of the safety concerns with hydroquinone.
Correct.
And it's not something that you should use outside of a doctor's care, and it's not something that you should use for long term. You should use it for 3-4 months, 5 months, really at tops, and then you need to kind of back away from it. The problem is, for a lot of people, you go through, even Dr. Obagi himself says, 70% of his patients have contact dermatitis, which is to say they have a lot of redness and erythema and flaking when they first started. So it takes them a couple of weeks to a month or so to adjust to it.
Yeah.
And then when you go off of it, a lot of people get what we call rebounding, where the hyperpigmentation comes back. Sometimes it comes back, worse than you had it in the first place. So that's a problem that a lot of people deal with. What sets our product apart is it's a peptide-based technology. And these peptides, in clinical studies, they were really discovered at Stanford University by a team of researchers led by a gentleman named Dr. Basil Hontosh, who's a very successful dermatologist in Northern California today. And what that team discovered was that these peptides were more potent than hydroquinone at inhibiting the melanin function, but they were completely non-cytotoxic. So at the level at which hydroquinone is 100% toxic, which is to say it kills all of the cells, at that same level these peptides are completely non-toxic. So as you noted, then you can see really quick results, but you don't get any of that redness, that peeling, that erythema the way that you would with some of the prescription products out there that use hydroquinone and tretinoin.
Yeah. Wait, back to Dr. Obagi. I recently met him when I was in New York,
Yes.
and first of all, he's a very different kind of man than I expected.
Right.
But he does have a very good retinol product.
He's a big proponent of retinol these days,
yeah.
and I think part of that is a desire for people to back off a little bit from these prescription products, and using them too long. And he's been really letting people know that, hey, hydroquinone, tretinoin, you shouldn't be using those too aggressively for too long.
Right.
And so that's one of the areas that he's explored, is using retinols, which is tretinoin-like, but kind of in a lighter
Formula.
Version.
Yeah. Well, tell me about Lumexal. How did this begin to formulate, and what did you see missing?
While we were at Obagi, while we were having a lot of success with those products, we did recognize 20 or 30% of the people who were getting on the system would drop off because it was just too red and irritating, and a number of people would drop off because they build resistance to those products. And so, we recognized an opportunity, if we could find the right alternative to hydroquinone, that we could really do well. There really was nothing out there.
And it's so popular. People think that it's going to work for them.
Yeah.
And it does, but not long term.
Right, and you really need some sort of a, something to do for maintenance, or alternatives for some people whose skin types just aren't geared for that kind of an aggressive regimen. And out there's hydroquinone, and then there's things like vitamin C and licorice extract and arbutin. These are kind of cosmetic grade, but they're much less effective than hydroquinone. They maybe have 10 or 15% of the efficacy. So there's this big gap. How do I get hydroquinone-like efficacy without hydroquinone-like irritation and redness and peeling, and without looking like a snake for the first few weeks of just with the peeling? And Felipe is actually the one who called me after we had left Obagi. He was he had his own consulting practice, and one of his clients was NB Medical. And he called me and said, hey, they're working with and sponsoring this research at Stanford. And the results that they're getting with these peptides in inhibiting tyrosinase is amazing. They show clinical results, and there's a clinical study published in the Journal of Investigative Dermatology in 2009 that showed these peptides are 17 times more potent in inhibiting tyrosinase than hydroquinone is.
Oh, that's impressive.
Yeah. They don't do some things that hydroquinone does, like they don't kill the melanocytes. And some of what hydroquinone's efficacy is that they're actually killing this cell function.
Yeah.
So good for seeing visible results short term, but long term, that's where these safety concerns get posed. This, by contrast, completely non-toxic, so you can get the efficacy because it's so much better at inhibiting tyrosinase, inhibiting those the cell function in terms of creating the melanin, but they don't have any negative impact on the melanocytes, the cells that actually do, what we want them to do in terms of creating the pigment that gives our skin tone.
Yes. So how many products do you have in this line?
Well, with that technology in place, we developed first a topical brightening cream, and launched that, and that was very successfully received. But what we recognized is that when you just give people a topical brightening cream, you don't know what kind of soap they're going to use. Are they going to use soaps with dyes and parabens? Are they going to use soapy soaps that leave a film and actually inhibit penetration? If you put a soap on that leaves a film and then put the topical brightening cream on, well, you're not going to get much penetration.
Yeah.
So we said, well, we need to develop a good cleanser, one with a low pH that keeps that acid mantle intact, and at the same time does a really good job of cleansing down to the pores, but it has no soaps, no parabens, no dyes, no artificial fragrances. So it's a good skin health
so
soap.
gentle. Even when you pour it into your hand, you see that there is a gentleness about this. I don't know how to explain it, but it's there.
You can see it, you can feel it, you can smell it, even though it has no artificial fragrances or nothing put in there to give it a smell. The natural aroma of these are quite pleasant and gentle. And that's the way it feels on your skin. And then we said, well, what are they going to do if you're trying to address hyperpigmentation, but then you go out in the sun without a sunscreen on? Then it's like, fighting fire on one side and throwing gasoline on the other.
Exactly.
Or what if they put sunscreens on, but they use chemical sunscreens? Most of the sunscreens that you find in the drugstores, on the counters, do a terrific job at keeping your skin from getting a sunburn. But they don't do a terrific job at helping hyperpigmentation. And the reason is the way chemical sunscreens work is the chemical soaks into your skin, and then it absorbs the rays, the UV rays, and disperses that energy out. Whereas a physical block, something with titanium or zinc, Color Science has the Sun Forgettable Brush, wonderful product because it just has physical block. We have a sunscreen as well that is a physical block sunscreen that has titanium and zinc. Those reflect the sun away. So they sit on top of your skin and block the UV rays.
But also about your sunscreen is that it has a moisturizing quality to it that you don't find with most sunscreens.
Right.
So can you speak to that a little bit?
Absolutely. One of the other aspects to create a really good system is to ensure that people don't have problems with drying skin when you're trying to get good exfoliation, which is a part of the process for getting that fresh, healthy skin to the surface. One of the things that people will sometimes get as a side effect from that is dry skin. So within our sunscreen, we did a couple things to make it really multifunctional and to promote good, healthy skin function. One is, as you say, it has good moisturizing ingredients, humectants that help improve the moisture content in the skin so that it helps with that dryness. The other is it has an ingredient that's very new, very cutting edge, called Synhelios 1031. That's the ingredient.
What
you can
is
look
that?
that up.
Okay.
It was developed by a company in Europe, and we got the rights to formulate and use that in the medical channel here with our product. And what it is it's an ingredient that blocks the toxic interactions between UV rays and the cell. So when you look at an SPF, no matter what it is, if it's SPF 15 or 30 or 45, anything above 15 is blocking at least 97% of those rays.
For how long? 2
well,
hours or whatever?
You should reapply during the day, especially if you're active and going out there. But we recommend people put it on there during the day and reapply a couple times, 2-3 hours in an active day is good. Maybe you don't need to if you're just kind of wandering around the house, but you do need to be aware that UV rays are everywhere.
They are.
They're
indeed.
here, so
That's right.
you should wear a sunscreen every day, even if you're not going to go outdoors. But what about the 2 or 3% they get in? And for sunburns, you won't have a problem. But for that toxic interaction, that these UV rays come in and they interact with the proteins in your skin in such a way that they break down the melanin, and I'm sorry, they break down the collagen and the fibroblasts. And so we want to, stop that. We want a second layer of protection. We're going to block most of it right on the surface, and then that gets in, we want to block its interaction, and that's what Synhelios does. It acts as a front. It grabs those rays and ties them up so that they don't have a toxic interaction with the cells in your skin. So in that regard, we're doing something that helps ensure that you're not going to have hyperpigmentation problems, because we're not going to allow anything in to signal the skin that it's being assaulted, which is what chemical blocks would do. They let it in and disperse it, and your skin still gets kind of the signaling, and you can still get hyperpigmentation. Very frustrating for people who feel like they're doing everything that they're supposed to
And yet they
for good
still
skin,
have.
and so why do I have this hyperpigmentation?
Exactly.
Take a look at what's on the label in your sunscreen. You might find that it's a chemical-based block,
I'm sure. Yeah.
and that can
Most of
contribute.
them are. I mean,
Most of them are.
That's
Because most of them are really focused on how do we prevent sunburns.
Mhm.
There's very few people who are really focused on the problem and coming up with solutions about how do we prevent the aging effects of the rays.
So you really are on the cutting edge of the technology of sun prevention with this product.
We really are. That's where we
Truly.
put our focus and our resources, and we've come up with something great as a result. And then there's one other step in there that sits in between the brightening cream and the sunscreen, and that's, if you use these peptides, these Stanford-developed peptides, we can do a great job at limiting the overproduction and getting a good even skin tone being produced at the base level. But what about that hyperpigmentation that you got yesterday and back? We can help today and forward using the peptides, but we need to help exfoliate away the damage that you've had from yesterday and before.
Right.
And that's where we have a product that we call Glycopeel. And we have two different strengths. Glycol 20 is a 20% glycolic for people with the thicker, oilier skin types that just need a boost to get that exfoliation going. And then we have Glyco 10, which has a 10% glycolic and also has the peptide in it, so it's working in combination to give a good exfoliation as well as...
Now, Curtis, do you use these products on a regular basis?
I
Because
do.
you have really fine skin.
I do. And
I mean, I can't even see a pore, and I am 2 feet away from you, or less than 2 feet away.
I use them, and I get good results because I do. So that's one of the first things we do when we're just looking at kind of the early part of development is, how do they work for us in the office? And then we go and start
And
doing
you'd be the
clinicals.
perfect person to test it on, because you have that fair skin.
That's right. Anything that they're concerned will be too
Harsh,
aggressive, they
yeah.
come and throw it on my face and watch and see what happens. Because if someone's going to have a reaction, I will.
So when you get these products through a physician, am I correct?
We do sell exclusively, because this is not just about selling products, it's about educating people about skin health.
Yes.
There's so much to know and learn. So what we try to do is identify the best dermatologists, plastic surgeons, and other skin health professionals, physicians across the country and around the world, and really work with them and ensure that they understand the philosophy of skin health as we have developed it, and how to work with patients to really get the most out of their skin. And there are times where it's totally appropriate for a doctor to say, we're going to put you on a system, but we're going to pair it with a retinoid up front. Sometimes they will do laser treatments up front to accomplish some things deeper in the dermal area. But there again, in the past when they used lasers, one of the things they always had to worry about is PIH, which stands for post-inflammatory hyperpigmentation. When you assault the skin with light and heat, that's just what the sun is doing. When you do it with lasers, a lot of times in the healing process, people will get hyperpigmentation. So using this in combination, the doctors are able to accomplish better overall outcomes.
I just saw my niece at Christmas, and she has been going through some laser treatments.
Yes.
And I saw the hyperpigmentation, because when I got back from seeing her, the first thing I said was, what has she done? Because there is this brown pallor to her skin.
Right.
And it took me a while to figure out what it was, but now I'm pretty sure that it's a result of over laser
Sounds like textbook case of PIH.
PIH.
And you can't blame the skin. It is just a defense mechanism to say, hey, we've been assaulted.
Right.
Lasers are assaulting the skin. We're trying to accomplish something positive out of that. But certain skin types, you won't see that. Other skin types, you'll see it a lot. And you'll see it more with people who have Italian, Latin American, Asian skin background. They are more prone to that type of PIH. You'll even see it with people who have, the occasional flare-up with acne. They can get rid of the acne, but sometimes they have little spots on their skin like that.
Exactly, yeah.
So for PIH, Lumexal is terrific. And then
What's
what
the last
we've
product
done,
over
the
there?
last product over there came later.
Yeah, because I haven't seen that one.
That came really in feedback from some of the doctors who started telling us, what's wonderful about these peptide technologies is we can treat people right up and around the eye for their pigmentary problems, where we couldn't do that with some of these prescription things. You wouldn't put hydroquinone up near your eye like that.
No, you wouldn't put a laser around your eye either.
You shouldn't. But in this case, it's so gentle and yet effective that it's terrific for that delicate skin around the eyes. And that got us thinking, well, there's other things that contribute to dark circles besides the pigment. There are a lot of people who have this kind of bluing that looks like it's just under the surface. Have you seen that? Sort of dark circles under the eye that aren't the skin, but it's kind of under the surface. And what happens a lot of times is those little capillaries in and around that fine tissue will leach a little bit of blood, a little bit of hemoglobin. And then that dries up and goes away, but what's left is some mineral deposits. Typically, iron deposits that build up in there, and that give a blue hue. So we took that thinking in place, and we also thought about, what can we do to also help with fine lines and wrinkles, and really just treat the crepiness, the pigmentary problems, and these, dark circle problems. And we formulated the Lumexal Revitalize Eye Cream. This has become, one of our very most popular products because it has ingredients that will chelate those iron deposits, bind to them, and allow the skin then to take them out.
Isn't that something?
That's something. And then if you can do that, it has hyaluronic acid to help with the fine lines and wrinkles, and provide a lot of moisture content. When people do have dry skin, a lot of times they complain about it around the mouth and around the eyes. So we do that for the eyes, and then long term we're getting that pigment, that skin tone right in line with what it should be, so that you have really nice under eye area overall.
Let's talk just very briefly about the pricing of your line, and then I know that you have something back here that's been hidden.
I do.
So
I haven't talked about that.
I know.
We haven't talked about that with anybody yet.
Really?
Nobody outside the company.
Are we like scooping you on
This
with
is a scoop. Nobody outside the company has seen.
We are so fortunate.
This is a prototype, and we haven't shown it yet. But I'm holding a prototype. You can see it.
I can.
That came, from our manufacturing plant yesterday, and we haven't sold it to anybody yet.
Oh my gosh, I'm so privileged. Thank you,
Right.
Curtis. Thank you. Okay, well, tell me about the pricing of your line, because
Okay.
I want women to know that it is affordable. They get very generous portions in these little tubes and everything, because it just takes just a little tiny bit to make them work.
We sell this as a system. It is a lot of research and development and expensive technology, but we wanted to make it as accessible for people as we possibly could. So we bundle these together in a system and sell that system for about $275. And that's all of those SKUs that you see.
Right.
You buy in the system.
Right.
And they last about 6 weeks.
I was going to say 6 to 8 weeks.
Yeah, and what people reflect back to us is, as they use this, they need a lot less makeup, a lot less cover-up. And, people spend $1,000 or more a year on those things. But if you can just have healthy, even-toned skin, you're saving that money.
Yeah.
You're getting healthier skin, and you feel better about your skin. And so, you get a good overall result, both in terms of what you see and on your pocketbook.
And if somebody says, oh, I've got to call my physician right now, or my dermatologist, is that the best way to start, or should they come to your website first to look at things?
Well,
and then you don't sell on your website.
We try to make information as available as possible to everyone, because we think that's just, a core part of who we are. It's about educating on skin health and skin function. But we do encourage people to go and see the doctor, see a professional. If they go on that website, there's a menu item that says Find a Doctor. And all of the NV medical doctors are there. All the doctors who use and dispense Lumexal are there. So starting there is great. If you don't have a doctor near you, there are a couple of doctors who've tried to make it very easy for you to get these products and get one-on-one consultations. One of them is Dr. Joel Schlesinger, who runs a site called lovelyskin.com. You can go on lovelyskin.com and find the products there, and you can call and talk to their trained professionals who all have used these products, love these products, and will tell you more about them.
That's so wonderful that you have that network of support for anybody who wants to use the product.
Absolutely.
Okay, so shall we wrap this up, and do you tell us what this new product is?
Sure. This new product is one that comes in pads, and it's called the Lumexal Topical Brightening Pads.
Ooh.
And essentially what this was essentially developed for is we have people who are getting treated with the silk peel. And we haven't talked much about the silk
Let's
peel.
talk about that before we get into that, because I want to know about the silk peel.
Yeah, silk peel is kind of our flagship product. It's a device, and it is used by dermatologists and plastic surgeons to resurface the skin. Essentially what it does is it uses diamond grit tips to resurface the skin, much like microdermabrasion, but then it does much more. It pulls the skin up into a chamber where the skin is run across these diamond grit tips, stripping away the stratum corneum, so you get a good exfoliation, but it's also using pneumatic pressure to drive topical ingredients like the Lumexal peptide down into the skin. So people coming in the doctor's office will often get a series of silk pills up front to really, get a good start on skin health, and then use the products in combination with those. And what we have developed in the Lumexal Topical Brightening Pads is what we really consider a good introductory product, that when you get that silk pill, to get them started on the concept of I'm going to use, products every day, and as a sort of an introduction to that, they can use these topical brightening pads in between the silk pills, and then they can use them with the system in the place of where you'd use a toner. So if you look at these pads, I'll open them up.
Yes, oh yeah, this is great. I'm so glad we get to open it and see it.
You'll see there's pads in here, and you can smell that. That has the same dosing of the Decapeptide 12, which is the Stanford-developed peptide that the cream has.
Hand?
Absolutely. So you can.
Oh, it's so soft.
Yes, it's soft. It's a weaved pad, so it gets a little bit of an exfoliation feel to that pad as well. But then a very pleasant smell, and it's giving another delivery of that peptide while really preparing for penetration on the creams and things to come.
So, is this recommended for the back of the hands as well, and the face,
yes,
and
absolutely.
under the eye, and
anywhere you have hyperpigmentation, it's terrific. In fact, these are wonderful. We have a doctor in New York who's really kind of pioneered using Lumexal with the back of the hands. He's anxious to try this. Dr. Brian Forley has written articles on hand rejuvenation, and he recommends the Lumexal topical brightening cream.
Wow!
And I think this will be a great addition for the hands because you can keep them in your purse, you can pop them out.
How often, should you use it daily, or you said
these
in
you
the
can
place
use.
of a toner?
I would use them at least twice a day.
Really?
At least morning and night. But again, keeping it with you. If your skin ever feels dried out, this is a great thing to use because not only will you help, it has hyaluronic acid in as well, so it helps with the hydration.
Yeah.
But you're also getting that skin health boost with the peptides and the brightening. So you can do that and then reapply your sunscreen.
That is wonderful. Well, you have just made my day. I just really appreciate knowing more about your line. And is there anything I've missed that you would say we have to talk about this?
Well, I think we've covered
Everything?
the heart of the technology and the products, and I appreciate your having me here to talk about it.
Wow.
I really enjoyed my time with the Ageless Sisters on the radio program.
Thank you. We enjoyed having you.
You
and
know
he
your
is
stuff.
the man behind the brand, so I like that.
Well, that's a handle that you gave me, but I will embrace it.
Okay, good. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
We're saying goodbye.
Goodbye.
Until next time.